Hey guys and girls, how's it going? I hope you guys had a great week. So I hope you guys had a great Christmas and of course, Happy New Year to everybody. It is the start of 2018 officially, and no beginning of the year would be complete without doing a couple of videos to generally reflect on the year that we've had and all the games that we've been given as well. So I just want to start off, of course, by saying quick thank you to everybody who supported the channel. Thank you so much. It's really appreciated. Let's get to it anyway, guys. So this is basically my game awards for 2017. There have been so many ups and downs last year. 2017, in terms of the negative, was probably known as the year of the loot boxes, microtransactions more than ever. And there were so many games that were just terrible. But in 2017, there was a lot of good, and that needs to be remembered. There were so many great games that came out in 2017. So this video is to kind of celebrate some of those games and some of the games that I thought were the best of their genre and deserve a recognition. Let's start off first with the best first-person shooter. The best first-person shooter for me last year, guys, was without a doubt Wolfenstein 2. I played the first Wolfenstein, The New Order, was a massive fan of it, and Wolfenstein 2 did not disappoint. The gameplay, the gunplay, the stakes were higher, the action was more fierce, the weapons were more epic, some of the fights that you had were just incredible, and the gunplay was so much fun. If you haven't played Wolfenstein 2, I absolutely recommend that you pick up the game at some point this year and you play it, because you will not be disappointed. Now, I didn't play Destiny 2, so I can't really comment on that game because I refused to buy it, and I'm still waiting to see what Bungie are going to do with their marketing going forward before I decide to pick it up and have a go at it. But for me, the best first-person shooter last year, Wolfenstein 2, without a doubt. The best platform game for me last year was easily Mario Odyssey. Now, there were a lot of good platforming games last year, guys, Cuphead being definitely one of them, and it certainly was within a potential for the best platform of the year. But then Mario Odyssey came along and it just took me by surprise. Now, I will be honest with you guys, I have been kind of bored with a lot of Mario games in the last kind of sort of 5 to 10 years, and was really bored of Nintendo just doing the same thing again with every Mario game, just introducing a slightly new power that you could use, but it kind of being the same. Well, I have to say that Mario Odyssey was so much fun to play, and it was a great game because Nintendo really did something different with that game this year, guys. The ability to use Cappy, which is the cap that you get at the beginning of the game, the ability to control particular characters, and the way that that just changed up the gameplay, and the way that you use that not only in combat but also in the platforming element of it as well. The whole 3D dynamic to then turning to that kind of nostalgic 2D gameplay that you had as well. There's just so much about Mario Odyssey that is just fun. It's heaps of fun for, you know, those players that have been with Nintendo since the beginning, and there's so much nostalgia, and there are so many Easter eggs in that game that will keep avid Mario fans happy. But for those that are new to Mario as well, it is a very good game to jump in on, and it's definitely one of the best games to come out on the Nintendo Switch this year. And if you own a Nintendo Switch, I honestly think that it is a must buy for that console. So Mario Odyssey easily wins the best platformer of the year. The best strategy game for me, surprisingly, was Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Now, Dante bought this on a Nintendo Switch, and I sort of watched him play it through, and it's such a great game. It's so fun anyway because it's rabbits, and you know, rabbits are just hilarious, and the mayhem that they get up to and the way that it mixes with Mario is so funny. But not only is this, you know, the humor funny and the animation and everything, but the gameplay is good solid gameplay, and the strategy based gameplay is really, really great. All the different characters that you can play as, the different weapons that you have, the different enemies that you fight, all the mini bosses and the final bosses are all different, dynamic, interesting, and it's a really, really good game. If you haven't played it, definitely pick up Mario Odyssey Kingdom Battle. You will not be disappointed, especially if you are a fan of turn-based strategy games. It is definitely my best strategy game of 2017, deservedly so. Next up is the best action adventure game. Now, this was a tough one for me. There were a couple of action adventure games that I did play this year, and I'm sure many of you would be expecting to see Middle-earth Shadow of War, take this title, and I was expecting for it to win, but I have to say I was incredibly disappointed with Shadow of War, particularly with the story, and I found myself getting so angry with the game and all the microtransactions and everything in Act 4 and everything, which of course I will talk about in more detail in my in-depth review I do for that game. So that's why that game did not win it. Instead, the game that I thought was the best action-adventure game that came out in 2017 was actually Assassin's Creed Origins. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed Assassin's Creed Origins, and not just because it is set in Egypt. And I love Egyptian history, and the story was good and the world is vast and beautiful, but everything about that game was just so much fun. There was so much about it that was new and different and dynamic. And, Ubisoft really did a good job of putting some life back into what I effectively thought was a dying franchise. And I have to say, Assassin's Creed Origins was just so much fun to play. The combat was great. Really enjoyed the new combat. I loved the new RPG elements to it. I loved the side missions as well as the main mission. I loved the different way that you could explore the world, and it being this huge, vast open world. And for me, it's hard because it's not a full action adventure game. It is, but it also has elements of RPG. And so in that way, it's a little bit of a cross between both, but I'd still think for me, Assassin's Creed Origins was one of the better games that came out in 2017, and Ubisoft did a really good job with it, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I'm hoping for more to follow on Bayek's story and set in Egypt. I'm very hopeful for the Assassin's Creed franchise after having played that game. Next up is the best RPG game that came out in 2017. Now, you all know that I'm a huge RPG gamer. It's probably my favorite genre. I'm an RPG nut. I love RPGs. I love a good story. I love characters. I love character development. I love spending hours immersing myself in a world and taking my time and playing through it. And there were so many good RPGs that came out in 2017. So many good RPGs. If we just, Horizon Zero Dawn, which came out in sort of February, March time, Persona 5, if you haven't played it, that was absolutely fantastic and just came out of absolutely nowhere. But the best RPG for me, guys, in 2017 was easily Zelda Breath of the Wild, exclusively on the Nintendo Switch. That game is a masterpiece, and it is a beautiful game, a beautiful RPG. The world that you can explore is dynamic, it's vast. The freedom that you have in that game, everything that you can do, from exploring the different shrines and the puzzle solving elements to that, pursuing the main story, trying to find these hidden memories from Link's past, just getting up to mayhem in the world and hunting and interacting with NPCs and taking on sort of monsters and goblins and goblins and everything. It's just a great game, and it's so much fun, and it's so easy to just lose yourself in the world, and that is a real testament to how good the game is. And a lot of people were sort of worried whether or not an open world game would work for Zelda, but They did an absolutely masterful job in creating it. So for me, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild wins not only the best RPG game of the year, but also the best open world game as well. So it wins both of those awards hands down easily for me. It is a phenomenal game, and if you own a Switch, you have to buy that game. You have to play it. It's a must buy, and it's one of those games of this current generation that will be held up as kind of an example of a really good RPG, kind of like The Witcher 3 was a few years ago. The best indie title for me, now there were so many good indie titles that came out in 2017. I'd say 2017 was really the year of indie developers. It seems every single year we get more amazing games that are coming out from these developers, and there were so many good games. I mean, we look at Rhyme, of course, Life is Strange Before the Storm came out, that was really good too. There was just so many good, Little Nightmares. But the best indie title for me, without a doubt easily, is Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. That game was just incredible. It came out of nowhere. I bought it on a whim because I'd heard about the concept of it and the whole idea of it being around sort of mental health problems, and I love Norse mythology, and I was interested to check it out, but I wasn't expecting the experience that I got. And the game itself is only short. It's about 6 hours. You can finish it in about 6 hours, but it's a beautiful game, and the experience that you go through and how you become sort of connected to Senua, and you go through that experience with, and you feel everything, and it's a masterful game. And for the small budget that they had for what they produced is quite incredible. And for me, it was a AAA quality level game, but obviously by an independent studio. And I think it shows that independent studios can produce some amazing games that can easily challenge the big companies. So they really need to keep on top of their A game, because for me, the future is definitely going the way of indie in terms of trying something new. So Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice was the best indie title for me. So now those are the genres. Let's have a look at some awards in terms of the creative process. So the best musical score for me was Mario Odyssey. The music in Mario Odyssey was just so incredible. It really sort of supported the gameplay, and it was unique to each world that you went to, and it just had elements of nostalgia in there as well, and just some great epic moments that just really boosted everything, the gameplay that you were playing and how you felt in that moment. And it just creates some truly epic moments in the game. The most easiest one being when you're on New Donk City, and it just is the main theme song for that, which is just incredible. So Mario Odyssey had the best musical score for me this year. The best graphics or visuals in a game for me easily is Horizon Zero Dawn. That game is one of the most beautiful games to come out last year. It showed the power of the PS4 in its finest. It was just a gorgeous world. It was such a beautiful game to immerse yourself in. It was so, the world was so vast and dynamic. You had from, the snow peaks of the Frozen Wilds DLC to, dry desert and forest and rain, and it's just so incredible. And the different animals, the different creatures and machines that were created as well, and just the different tribes and the colors, and it's a beautiful game. It's such a beautiful game just to get lost in, and that's of course why it's got a dedicated photo mode, because it is such a beautiful game. And it's a game where you can just stand, stop, just still, and just take it all in, and just gape in awe at just how incredible the world is, and it's just such a stunningly beautiful game. The best cinematography and sort of directing in a video game for me this year was easily Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. The story and the experience of that was so incredible, and I think one of the reasons was the cinematography, the way that the camera worked, the way that in certain elements of the game, when you're in combat, everything would zoom in and get very claustrophobic. the use of lighting, the use of shadows, the use of the different sounds and noises, as you'd hear voices and they'd ridicule you and you'd hear monsters and things. Just the way that everything was kind of directed made that experience so incredible and made that game something truly special. So that was the best cinematography for me this year. The best story. Now, that's always a hard one for me because for me, I'm a story-based gamer. So the story is super important for me. And there were some excellent stories this year. They really were in gaming. So I love the story of Horizon Zero Dawn. I love the character of Aloy. I thought she was great. That definitely is one of the most promising franchises for me. I'm really excited to see where they go with that. And I'm hoping they'll develop the story and develop Aloy. And I'm hoping we'll see further games in that world. But the best story for me easily this year has to have been Wolfenstein 2. That story it's just so great. It's so well written. I love the fact that Bethesda actually turned around to EA and sort of mocked them at the Game Awards and says, no, we're all about the single player experience. What do EA coming out saying, oh, gamers don't want story, gamers want multiplayer, online worlds, microtransactions. Yeah, of course that's what we want. No, it's not. We like stories and characters. A lot of gamers do like that, myself included. So it was really great to see Wolfenstein do a first-person shooter, but do such an incredible story that supported that all the way through. And the gameplay, of course, was great, but the story is where that game is in. The characters were dynamic, they were likable, they were well written, they were well developed throughout it. The way that we went sort of found out more information about the main characters in the first game, we found out a lot more about William J. Blazkowicz's background. The story was just great. The villains were great. They were so well developed that you hated them and you were so invested in it. There were so many twists and turns in the story. The voice acting was fantastic. The music was great. The facial animations were brilliant. The writing was great. The story in Wolfenstein 2 is so good. There's so many moments in that game where I laughed and I cried and I felt anger and frustration and pain and happiness and all those things. And that's what you get when you have a really, really good story. So Wolfenstein 2 for me was the best story to come out in 2017. So let's have a look now at the best games for each of the major consoles. The best PS4 game for me last year easily was Horizon Zero Dawn. That was the best game to come out on the PlayStation 4. Now, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of very good games that came out on the PlayStation 4 last year. There were so many good exclusives that came out, but the best one easily was Horizon Zero Dawn. I loved the world. I loved the main character of Aloy. She was incredibly likable. The story was interesting. The world was beautiful. The gameplay was fun. It was great. It just was so good. It was such a good game, and it came out so early in the year in March, but it was a breath of fresh air, and it was nice to see a developer like Guerrilla Games trying something new, because Guerrilla Games obviously were well known for the Killzone series, which is a first-person shooter. So it's very interesting to see them go into the third-person genre and also the RPG genre. But I have to say, they did an admirable job, and they did a fantastic job with Horizon Zero Dawn, which for me was the best PlayStation 4 to come out last year, and is a must-buy if you own a PS4. The best Xbox One game to come out last year was easily Cuphead. Now, for me, 2017 wasn't really the year of Microsoft. Yes, they had the new Xbox One X that came out, which is the most powerful console out there at the moment, and who knows, perhaps in 2018, they've got more planned with Crackdown 3 coming out, Sea of Thieves, and so on. But for me, 2017 was a weak year for Microsoft, and it really lacked a lot of exclusive titles to make you want to buy that console. Now, the most interesting game to come out on the Xbox One, and the best game to come out on the Xbox One, I think, was Cuphead. I think Cuphead was so interesting. I loved it. We we played it together with Dante, 2-player co-op, and I absolutely enjoyed it. I haven't played apart from Mario Odyssey, obviously, I hadn't played a really good platform in a long time, and Cuphead was really, really fun. The style, the visual style of it being like 1940s cartoons, Steamboat Willie kind of style. The gameplay was so challenging. That game was so hard. The different characters and the boss fights and the level design was fantastic. Cuphead is just a fabulous game. It's a really, really good game. And if you own an Xbox One, you definitely should buy that game and play it, because for me, it was the best game to come out on the Xbox One. For myself, of course, personally, that's what I think. The best Nintendo Switch game to come out in 2017, that's a hard one, because there were a lot of very good games that came out. There are numerous titles that could earn this. Of course, Mario Odyssey was fantastic. Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle was great. Splatoon 2 was fun. But the best game still that came out in 2017 on the Nintendo Switch easily is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. That's a masterpiece for me and is currently the best game available on the Nintendo Switch. So if you own that console, you really should buy that game and you should check it out. But it's a huge game, and don't get me wrong, it's a massive game. You'll easily put over 100 hours to play that game, but it's well worth every moment and every minute of that game. Every experience is different. There's so much to explore in the world. There's so much to do. There's so much content in that world to do. It's never dull. It's never boring. The combat is fun. The exploration is fun. The sense of freedom is great. It's just a brilliant game. It's just a brilliant game, and it's the best game on the Nintendo Switch, in my opinion. So let's reflect a little bit on some of the highs and lows of 2017. So let's talk a little bit with the positive side of things. Who had the best comeback in 2017? For me, actually, it was Ubisoft, which is interesting. I thought Ubisoft had some highs and lows last year. They didn't start off the year too well. They had a lot of backlash with For Honor, which was an interesting game, but it had terrible problems with the servers and the online multiplayer element to it. The story was interesting and fun, but it was too short. Then they had kind of Ghost Recon Wildlands, which was just like your carbon copy of The Division, kind of, and didn't really get the reception that perhaps Ubisoft were hoping for. But as the year progressed, Ubisoft actually released some really good titles where they were trying something new. The two best titles I think that came out from Ubisoft last year were easily Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which was fabulous and came out of nowhere, and also Assassin's Creed Origins. I think they did a really good job with that, and I think they really sort of redeemed themselves and redeemed the Assassin's Creed franchise as well. So I think Ubisoft actually had a pretty good year in 2017, and they kind of had a comeback, because the last sort of 2 or 3 years have not been very good for them, and they've had, criticism after criticism and problem after problem. So it's nice to see them kind of get back into gaming, into creating good games for gamers that gamers will like, without any of the bullshit side of things, which is great. Of course, let's talk about the disappointments of 2017. So there's been a lot of positive, but there were some problems in 2017. So let's talk about them. So let's start off with the worst company of 2017. And this is easy. It's easy. You know who it is. It's EA. EA are scum, basically, and I don't know what they're doing. I can't understand where EA are coming from. Obviously, at the moment, all they care about is their shareholders and making money. And EA had such a bad year in 2017 with the whole microtransaction pay-to-win loot box fiasco that was Star Wars Battlefront 2, also introducing loot boxes and pay-to-win in Need for Speed Payback as well, which wasn't reported as much, but there is a lot in that, and that really does need saying. And also, they closed down a lot of studios like Visceral Games, which was working on a very potentially amazing title, which was a single player, linear story based Star Wars game. And I was super hyped for that. And then they closed it down and just put a stop to it. And we're just saying, oh, but gamers don't want single player games. Gamers want multiplayer online worlds. Well, no, we don't. And the fact that you're saying that just means that maybe some people do, but no, the vast majority of gamers, we like stories, we like characters, we like immersing ourselves in worlds, and there's nothing wrong with a single player story based game. Of course, bring out other genres too, but don't just lump all games together and try to appeal to a mass audience. It doesn't work, and it's not good business practice in my opinion. So EA at the moment is toxic. It's toxic. Anybody that's associated with EA has huge problems. I'm massively concerned about BioWare. I'm very, very concerned about BioWare. I'm worried about their future. I'm not overly excited or looking forward to Anthem. In fact, I'm worried. I'm heavily concerned about Anthem, that it's just going to be EA's kind of carbon copy of Destiny, and there's going to be lots of microtransactions and loot boxes and RNG in there, and it's going to lose its heart. I feel that BioWare are starting to lose the essence of who they are, and BioWare were one of my favorite developers. They're a developer that had a reputation, that had a lot of respect in the gaming community for building great stories and great characters, and they're losing that because of pressures maybe from EA and their association with EA. And it can be seen, in things like Mass Effect Andromeda and the shoddy quality that was released out. And for me, even though I did enjoy some elements of the game and it wasn't as terrible as some people made out, it's not a terrible game. It isn't what I expect from BioWare. And I will admit that when the game came out in its initial state, of course it's much better now after all the updates, but when it came out in its initial state, I was heavily disappointed in Mass Effect Andromeda. For me, the facial animations were terrible. The story writing, it was uninspired. They were using, themes and tropes that they'd used in the previous trilogy. It just seemed lazy to me. The characters, some were interesting, but a lot of them were just sort of carbon copies of characters that we're familiar with. And so I was disappointed in Mass Effect Andromeda. It didn't grip me as much as other Mass Effect games have done. And the testament to that is I haven't gone back and replayed it. Whereas when I finished Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, I couldn't wait to jump back into that world again and to make different choices and to create a new character, romance a different character, and completely, go down a completely different path. And I just didn't feel that drive with Mass Effect Andromeda. And I think that's just because it's not as good as the trilogy, and the writing, and maybe because it was a new team working on it, obviously they didn't have the support and the backing that they perhaps needed, because a lot of those sort of seasoned game developers were working on Anthem. That was the priority, and that's probably the priority that's been pushed on them by EA, because they want that game to come out as soon as they can, so they can make money from it, and so they can obviously challenge Activision, challenge Bungie, and challenge Destiny 2 and the monopoly that it has on that market at the moment. So that for me was the biggest disappointment of 2017, which was, of course, Mass Effect Andromeda. So let's finish off this video, guys, by talking about the Game of the Year for 2017. Now, this was really actually so difficult for me to decide, because I went through the list of all the games that I played, and I played so many games this year. I can't believe how many games I actually played, and a lot of them were big RPG titles as well. I don't know where I found the time in between, like moving house and working full time and family and trying to do videos for channel on different things. I don't know where I just didn't sleep. Obviously, I mustn't have slept this year. Who knows? It's a blur. But there's so many good games that came out in 2017. So many games that would deserve Game of the Year. Obviously, Zelda Breath of the Wild, easily. Horizon Zero Dawn, Mario Odyssey. all very deserving of Game of the Year. But for me personally, and of course, this is my personal choice, my personal taste, my Game of the Year for 2017 still is easily Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. And I know it's different to what other people are saying, and I'm sure other people have picked, I know many people have picked Zelda Breath of the Wild as being their Game of the Year, and I can see why. But for me, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, just, it's a game that had such an impact on me. And for me, a Game of the Year is something that just, your experience of it is unique to you, and it's something that you become so immersed in the game, and it's such a masterpiece, and it's so well done that you kind of, that experience stays with you. And I had that with Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. It's a hard game for me to talk about because it was such a personal experience, but it was such a beautiful game. It tackled a really difficult topic, obviously, with mental health and mental health issues, but it did it in such a respectful and honest way, and an interesting way in terms of the way it interacted with the gameplay and the visions that you would have to do puzzle solving, and the noises and the voices that you would hear, and obviously the combat and the way the camera worked and the way that the story progressed, and everything just gelled so well. And it was a game that I, from start to finish, I wanted it to end because of the stress that I was under, but I didn't at the same time. And it was incredible. It's a game I can't really put into words because it's just the feeling I get from it. But it was just such a masterpiece. It was such an amazing game, and it was just incredible, absolutely incredible. So for me, because of the experience I had with that game, and because of the way that it affected myself personally, and just how incredible I thought it was, that for me is easily a Game of the Year for 2017. So that's it in a nutshell. Those are my awards for 2017. Quite a long video, but I suppose there are a lot of awards to give out, and there are a lot of very good games that came out last year. Let me know, obviously, what you guys think in the comment section below. What games would have won for you? What was your Game of the Year? What were your best and worst games that came out last year? Your highs and your lows in 2017. Please share in the comment section below. I will be doing one other video where I'll be looking forward to 2018 and talking about the games that I am most excited about and I'm anticipating the most and will be playing in 2018. I'll be doing another video on that, so please look forward to it. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a great week. Take care. Happy New Year again, guys. And as always, happy gaming. Bye, guys.